everyone, and welcome back to a second chance. Philip Jones, kidney transplant recipient.
And hi, I'm Tafaro Cook, two-time kidney transplant recipient and founder of Kidney Care Coaches, where we coach people with stage 3 to stage 5 kidney disease. If you or you know someone who has kidney disease challenges and needs to be coached with your modalities, hit us up at kidneycarecoaches.com.
Awesome. So we're going to jump straight into this. I apologize for the lateness. Everything was on my fault. But to jump into it. Your boss says you got sick at 24. Think about kidney disease. Before diagnosis.
Is that for me? I'm sorry, I didn't hear a part of that.
I said it says your boss says you got sick at 24. I said, did you know anything about these before you got diagnosed?
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much, Phil and Tafaro, for having me here today. Um, Before my diagnosis, no, I didn't know anything about kidney disease or kidney failure or anything of that sort.
Simone, can
Okay.
you tell us a little
Uh,
brief about you?
Sure. So my name is Somone Washington. I'm originally from Miami, Florida. I have lived in California, Long Beach, California, for the past 8 years, and really happy to be on the show today.
Thank you. Thank you. Go ahead, Phil.
oh, you got the next question, Mr. Cook.
So, Simone, tell us like what was your first symptoms that you were having when you first started experiencing kidney disease?
So I was about 24 years old when this took place. I was At this point, I had never needed to go to the hospital for any reason. I had nothing besides a common cold over the years. So this was really unexpected. I started to feel just very sick. I couldn't keep any food down. I was thirsty, like really thirsty, but I wasn't using the bathroom at the same rate that I was drinking. And so began to retain fluids like in my legs and my ankles. And I just didn't know what to do, where it was coming from. And so I went to the emergency room.
Yeah, I think we both experienced those things before, especially at a young age. What was what was your thought process when they first start telling you, ask you about how's your kidneys and things? Because that's the experience that I had, and I'm pretty sure you had this experience also. Can you go in a little depth of that? That first initial.
Well, at the time, I had just finished graduate school and I had just started a new job. So I was in my probationary period at the time, which means that I didn't have medical coverage yet.
Mhm.
And that resulted in a 22-hour wait in the emergency room lobby to be seen. So that's a whole other
Yeah.
conversation for another time. But once I finally did get seen, I was immediately diagnosed with end stage renal failure. So there wasn't really a conversation that I can recall about it because they were such in a rush to address what was happening in the moment and get me stable.
Right, right. Did they have end stage renal disease has lots of names. Did they come up with any specific disease that you may have had, anything like that?
So the doctors never confirmed the exact cause of my kidney failure. I don't have diabetes. I've never had diabetes. I've never had high blood pressure. I've never had disease. Those are usually
Right.
the main causes. I didn't have any of that. Um, but the doctors did also find that I had FSGS.
Hmm.
They diagnosed me with that at the same time. I don't remember exactly what those words stand for, but it's a cousin to lupus,
Yep.
and so it has something to do with your immune system in that way. But they didn't say that that was the cause of my kidney disease. So honestly, I don't have I don't have clarity on what caused my situation.
Yeah, FSGS is a focal glomerulonephritis is what it is, and
Mhm.
kind of similar to what I have, and the same cousin to what my disease is exactly. And it's an autoimmune disease also, like you just said. So, and those are the same symptoms I had at an early age also. So did they when they diagnosed you, did they give you some like Lasix and things like that to get the fluid off and things like that, or what was what was your from the hospital to going home? What was
Mhm.
that like?
So the first thing that they did was they put like an emergency catheter in my neck to start emergency dialysis
Okay.
right there in the hospital to address the fluid situation and just the overall kidney failure that was going on at the time. And I spent the next 2 weeks in the hospital for the doctors to determine the right mixture of medicines to send me home with.
Hmm.
It was determined later that I could take a couple of medicines to stabilize my kidney function for the next year or two before those medicines, the side effects will outweigh the benefits. So
Right.
there were two kinds. There was one called Cellcept, and I'm not remembering the second one. So I was on Cellcept for a year, and then I was on the other one for another year. And then after that, it was time to start dialysis because there was no other way to stabilize my kidney function outside of doing dialysis. So I started after those 2 years of being on the medication.
That's pretty. That's and I work with a lot of patients, and this is the first time I ever heard somebody start CellCept before they had a kidney transplant, because CellCept is an anti-rejection medication. Now, the only reason I can think of them starting you with that was, were they expecting you to get a kidney transplant pretty soon?
I'm not sure what the process was behind it. It was not anything that was communicated to me. So I don't know. I don't know, to be
Mm,
honest.
okay.
One thing I do know from talking to other kidney recipients and people who are waiting is that I was also taking prednisone
Yeah.
before,
Hmm.
and then after the transplant, I wasn't taking it anymore. And so I know some people that have had a kidney transplant, they take prednisone after.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
hmm
Yeah, at my first transplant, I took prednisone as well. So what prednisone with FSGS does is, so focal glomerulonephritis is a inflammation to the glomerulus of the kidneys and the nephrons. And so what the prednisone is designed to do is designed to lower the inflammation, and that's what that is for. Um, some people can tolerate it, some people can't. Me, on the other hand, I can't tolerate it. It just makes me feel terrible. It blows up my face. It makes me feel just yucky. I'm not that guy. So I tell my doctors all the time, don't put me on it. We go at it back and forth all the time because I'm just not that guy. But so when you started dialysis, did they keep the CVC in, the central venous catheter in, and during that whole time, just then you started dialysis when you left the hospital, or did they take it out and then you kept on, living?
so after I left the hospital, before I left the hospital, they took the emergency catheter out of my neck.
Okay. So,
And then, like I said, I didn't actually start dialysis for 2 years after leaving the hospital.
right.
So during that time, during the latter part of those 2 years, I got the surgery to have my fistula created in
Okay.
preparation for dialysis. So a fistula is a sewing of a artery and a vein together to make a larger pass for the blood to go in and out during dialysis treatments. Some people have a graft install, which is an artificial tube that does the same thing. But the doctors felt that my vein and artery were good enough to perform the dialysis well. So that's the route they went for me. I still have my fistula, it's still active. I've gone to see specialists to see if I should have it closed off, but they not closed off, but just managed so that it's not in use anymore. But they didn't really see a reason to have additional surgery to address it if it's not bothering anything. So
Right, right.
it's still working.
Yeah, a lot of doctors hope it will stop thrilling. That's their goal because even though, like you said, mine worked for 5 years when I got my second transplant. It continues on, and when it stopped, my doctors were quite happy because it stops it and it gives the heart a break. Because when it's thrilling like that, it's like an open kind of like an open muffler header, if you will, if you're talking about a car where it just has no back pressure. So, and it's not a problem if, somebody like yourself who's young and healthy is not a problem where they can just, let it go. And some more than likely, if you're not using it, eventually it will stop, but sometimes they don't. So who knows? But like you said, if it's not a problem, it's not a big deal. That's funny that you said fistula. Ohio State University did a documentary on my fistula in my arm to show
Uh,
people, that you can exercise and ride motorcycles and be active instead of having the CVC. Because when you're in dialysis, we see a lot of people continually with the CVC, and your heart can get infected. So I'm glad you did have that surgery and was a proponent of getting the fistula because it's a lot healthier when you're on dialysis for sure. So how did your kidney transplant process proceed? Let's go in deep about that.
okay. So by the time I started dialysis, I was an elementary school teacher. So I would
Okay.
go to work every day. I would come from work and go straight to the dialysis center 3 times a week for
Mhm,
4-hour sessions.
mhm.
And so while I was on dialysis, I also started the process of getting on the transplant wait list. There were over 30 clearances and tests that I needed to take to prove that I was otherwise healthy as part of the process to get on the list. So if you can imagine making all those doctor's appointments and getting the test done and waiting for the results, it took about a year to get all of those things done and approved to get on the list. And so once I got on the list, months afterwards, I started to get calls from the hospital to say that they were a potential match. So I would go whenever I got that call. I would go get the blood test and then come home and wait for the results. And then later on, they would say, unfortunately, someone else was a closer match. This happened 6 times,
Wow.
but on November 17th, 2010, which was about 5 years after my diagnosis, was when I got the seventh call, which was the call that this is your kidney, this is your match. We need you to be at the hospital by midnight to check in. By 2 a.m., I was under anesthesia, and by 7 a.m. the next morning, I was waking up from a successful surgery.
Awesome. Awesome, man. That's good to hear. That's wonderful. Um, have you ever spoken to or heard anything about your donor? Anything like that?
Yes. So my donor was an 18-year-old young man. He lost his life due to gun violence, and his family decided to donate. Um, I'm forever grateful for the decision that they made, and I
Definitely.
hope that knowing that they helped to save my life and other many others' lives and enhance many others' lives, I hope that brings them some level of comfort while
Right.
they live with the loss of their loved one.
Right. Yeah, that's a true blessing. So we want to thank that family for sure for donating because that's big. We see it's unfortunate what happened to him, but we see a lot of people like Simone talked about even in her bio that we see a lot of people needing kidneys and needing these organs, but not receiving. And we have a lot, especially in the Black community. And I'm a big proponent of advocating for people becoming organ donors. I'm a two-time kidney transplant recipient. I'm still a donor. So just want to tell
Yeah.
people out there, even if you are a recipient, you still can be a donor. Just want to tell people out there, and I'm a donor. I'm a big proponent of it, and I've been donated twice to me, so I'm a donor also. So just wanted to briefly talk about that. So after your transplant, how was your recovery? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about your experience recovering.
Okay, and I just wanted to back up a bit to add to what you just said. There are 18 people every day that die waiting for an organ transplant, and so that's part of why I'm here. And I really do appreciate you guys having this platform just to spread awareness and let people know like how important this is. And so, and it's like you alluded to earlier, like we as African Americans are more likely to be on a wait list or be in need because of the causes, right? Diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, they affect our community more than others. So we are the ones in higher need, but we're also the same community that have higher apprehensions about registering to become donors. So we'll talk more about that later on in the show. But my recovery was a slow process. You know, you have to take things really easy, not walking too fast, taking a ton of meds, you know, right in the beginning, being on a very rigorous schedule to take your meds at certain times throughout the day, um, needing support, you know, having family members around to help me just get around and help um, get bathed and things of that nature, because not being able to do a lot of those things on my own and all like that. And so it was a slow process, just doing everything that the doctors say to do, go to all of the appointments. There were lots of appointments in the beginning. So the meds and the appointments wean off over time, but there's a lot of it, you know, right in the beginning. And the doctors are just trying to make sure that your body is accepting of the new kidney and that there are no complications.
Right.
So what's funny about my story is the other person that got this young man's other kidney ended up being my roommate in the recovery room. And so I got to meet her, and we are kidney sisters. Like we still keep in touch. And so once we both got released from the hospital, so she kind of went back to work more immediately. Like she and her partner had their own business. It was in Texas, and our surgery happened in mid-November. So just prior to the start of tax season, which is the time that they make the most money for their year. So she went to work more immediately, and she, as a result, had a lot of more complications with her transplant because she didn't have the luxury of taking it easy the way that we're supposed to. And it did result in lots of complications. So it's important to do exactly what the doctors recommend and really take the time to heal the way that you need to so that you can have less complications in the longer run.
I agree. I think that's very, very important. We see a lot of people wanting to rush back, and you have to understand, just like Simone said, you have this new precious organ, and it's trying to adjust to your body. Your body is trying to adjust to that. So, don't sacrifice the money for this precious organ that's invaluable. This thing is valuable more than money because it's saving your life. And I agree with
Yeah.
that. I've seen that happen quite a bit, and I'm glad you made that point because that's very, very important. Phil, go ahead. You know me, I can ask questions all day. So go ahead, Phil. I apologize.
Oh man, brother, have at it, man. Have at it. We'll go to a commercial real quick, and we'll come back and ask some more questions.
Okay.
Welcome back to a second. So obviously, I got one question since we're touched on a lot. Um, what was your family's response when you told them that you were diagnosed with end-stage kidney disease?
So it was mixed responses. As far as my parents go, they are pretty resilient when it comes to things like this. Uh, Obviously, it's devastating news, and you never know how to really take it. But they did well to like stay strong. I believe they were trying to stay strong for me, so that I would be strong through the process. Uh, Family, friends, coworkers, uh, after they heard about it, they were asking me questions about how they could get tested to see if they were a match. And so people were just going to, I didn't really have the answer. So they were researching on their own to find just calling the hospitals and finding out what the process was. And so they went down to get tested. And unfortunately, no one in my immediate circle was a match. And so my donor came from the transplant wait list.
Mr. Cook, go take over.
Um, so let's dive into what inspired you to start the nonprofit that you have.
So my business is called Kiasi Technology Solutions. It's not a nonprofit, it's for
I
profit.
apologize.
No problem. It is just out of a need that I saw in my immediate circle of people of retirement age, of a more mature age, just being interested in learning more about technology. So
Mm.
maybe this topic wasn't part of like high school when they were in high school, or now that they're retiring, they have a little bit more time, and this is part of the hobbies that they want to pick up, learning, brushing up on their technology skills. Maybe they have kids, adult kids, or grandchildren who buy them technologies, computers, printers, smartphones, and they don't really know how to use it, anything of that nature. And so I saw the need, and so I have already been helping people learn these things. And they would always say, "Oh, you're so patient. You're really good at this. You should start a business." And then once we were in the pandemic, is when I really just focused in on the business side and getting it registered and all that. And so that's when the business officially started. And then there was a need. This same population of people, retirees, were interested in starting their own small businesses, and they have a passion for the product or service that they're offering, but they may not know the technology that helps run the back end of the business. And so I will be tapped to help with those things, including like social media content creation and management, things of that nature. So the business has pivoted to include that as well. And so it's just another way to share knowledge with my community and help people in a subject area that I am an expert at, in order to help other people learn and increase their quality of life, and also help them succeed in their businesses.
That's awesome, man. One thing I could say, my mom, she's 87 right now, and she did taxes up till she was like 77, and
Uh-huh.
now she's a text wizard. She be on our family chat, like killing the game. We be like, and every time I talk to her, she's on her computer doing her thing. But people laugh, but she, like you said, though, we have that older community that people don't even touch their phones or their computers because they're almost afraid of them. So
Mhm.
I'm glad you saw that niche right there, because that opened up a lot of people's world right there, where they like, oh, I could just do it like this. I could pay
Yeah.
bills online. I don't have to, get the mail out, the stamps and all that, old school stuff. You just pay your bills online and keep it moving. So that's a really, really great niche, man. That's awesome. So you're an advocate, right? Also.
Yes. So I'm an ambassador for One Legacy, which
Okay.
is one of the largest OPOs, organ procurement organization. Like they help to facilitate the process of organ, tissue, and eye donations. But
Okay.
it's also a public education organization. So we go out into the community at various events, parades, festivals, and the like, just to educate the public on what it means to be an organ donor, to be available, to share our stories as a way to encourage them and inspire them to register and to really help them understand the need and to be available to answer any questions that they have about the process or what it means to be a donor. Just all in the effort to spread awareness and increase those donor numbers.
That's good. And I know you guys have to debunk the myths out there because we have so many myths that people say. I think I've heard. What's the craziest myth you heard so far?
Um, I wouldn't say the craziest, but the one I hear most often, especially in the African American community, is that, I was brought into this world with everything and I want to leave the world with everything. That's what people say. And so my response to that is if everyone thought the way that you did, then I wouldn't be standing here today talking to you because no one would have donated to save my life. And so it really does make a difference when people get to meet a recipient, someone who has received a second chance at life, and share that story and just look them in the face and like a tangible thing to help them like reevaluate the way that they have been thinking about this whole donation process. It's like I'm living and breathing, standing here with you today because someone said yes. I
Yeah.
also think that it's important to really just explain what it means to be an organ donor because being out in the community and having these conversations with people, I realized that some people believed that saying yes to being an organ donor, they thought it meant that it was the same as giving blood, like that you would be carted away immediately after saying yes and something would be taken at that moment. And it's like, no, that's not what we're asking. That's not how it goes. What we're asking for is that when you register to be a donor, what that means is like once your life has ended and once you're done using all of your things, that you're saying yes, that someone else can use it after you're done. Um, that's what we're asking for, and that's what it means to be a registered donor. There is an option to be a living donor, but that's a separate, different process. Um, and that's something that you can volunteer to do as well. But that is what we're asking for when you register is that once you're done with your life and you've lived to 150 years old, that after that time, you would say yes, that someone else can use your organs, your eye, your tissue, your skin, whatever is valuable at that time to help them continue to live and enhance their life.
That's awesome. Great way to put it. That's funny because I hear that same one too, man. I've been here with it. I'm a leave with it. That's the I think that's the cop out one. So, but what you said was, hey, I wouldn't be here standing here. I think that's a good comeback. So I'm gonna have to use that one as well. That's remarkable. But let me ask you a question now. I don't know if you know any information with this because we see female donors and things like that, but I never asked this question. Now, how hard is it when you receive a kidney to get pregnant, or do they have any challenges if you get pregnant, or do you know any information with that?
So yeah, so at one of the community events that I volunteered at, I did get to meet a young lady who was a kidney recipient, and she had just had a baby a few months ago, and the baby she had him with her at the time, and so I asked her, I was like, how was it for you as a kidney recipient? And she said, oh, it was fine. She had no complications. She just the only thing that they ask is that you let your doctors know as soon as you know that you're pregnant, and they just have to modify your medicines because some of the immune suppressants, one in particular, myfortic, they
Yeah.
have to take you off of that and replace it with something different while you're with child.
Okay, yeah. So we all know, and a lot of people might not know, that when you do get a kidney transplant, they put it in front of you. They put it on your left side. That's the first one. Where the first one goes, and she had no complications physically as the baby got bigger with the kidney. The kidney stayed in. So that's pretty amazing. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, she
Wow.
said that her process was fine, as she was carefully monitored by her care team, and she was fine. And by the way, my kidney's on my right side.
Oh, okay. They put it on your right side, your first one. Really? Okay.
Yes,
Oh, I'm
yes,
sorry, right side, not left. Yeah. My second
yes.
was on my left, so that's why I would say. You're right.
Okay,
Right.
okay,
Apologize.
yeah.
You're right. Phil, go ahead, man.
Uh, Honestly, you guys ever have a conversation? I don't have any questions for her. If you have any, that's your last few, and then wrap it up if you have any more.
Okay. So what else? What else is on the horizon for Simone these days?
Well, I do like to share, like, after having this second chance at life, like what's been going on. It's been 12 years. What's been going on? So in these 12 years, I moved to California. I reside in Long Beach right now. I've been able to develop my career. I currently serve as a software analyst on a local university campus. I've been able to build my business, but most importantly, I've had more time to spend with my family and my friends to create memories, and that's something that's truly invaluable. And I can't express how grateful I am to have the opportunity to do that, and just to volunteer as an ambassador to continue to spread the word. It's really my way of trying to pay it forward or do something tangible as an active way to say thanks or show thanks for this second chance of life that I've been given. I look forward to continue to live a full life and just see what God has in store for me moving forward.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. It was great hearing your story. I have no more questions, but it was great meeting you and great talking to you on this podcast. We apologize again for the mishap earlier that Phil Jones decided to throw at us unexpectedly, but it's all good. Again, I have no more questions, but thank you for being a pivotal person in the community of kidney disease, and keep sharing your story and keep living a strong life. And we appreciate you for sure.
Thank you so much again for having me. And I did want to add that if anybody is inspired to become an organ donor, after hearing our conversation today, there are many ways that you can register. You can go into the DMV office and say that you want to be a donor. You can register online at dmv.org. There's also onelegacy.org. There's donatelife.net. So you can do it from the comfort of your own home. You can do it on your phone. You can register, and then you'll be registered. And the next time that you get your license printed, you'll see a pink dot that signifies that you are a donor. So thanks again for having me. Thank you for providing this platform. I really appreciate what you guys are doing to get the word out. And thank you for the time.
Well, thank you for letting us share your story, and like I said again, a wonderful story, I might add. And keep on staying strong, keep on doing your thing, and again, we thank you.
Thank you so much.
You might be muted, Phil. We can't hear you. Phil, you might be muted. We can't hear you. Okay. Well, I guess Phil can't hear us right now. His vocals are out. So we just want to thank you and tune into next Wednesday. We'll be having, I don't know the guest yet. Phil's gives me the guest eventually, but we will be having a guest. I don't know who, but tune into next Wednesday. And thank you so much, and thank you again, Simone.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Again, thank you. We appreciate you. As always, thank you everyone